Hello guys, welcome to Bold Coding. In this video, we are going to build a resume level project. Yes, you heard that right. We are going to make a project from scratch which you guys could put it onto your resumes. It's going to be a very beginner friendly. So if you are aware of basic concepts like class, function, objects, object oriented programming, conditions and basic maths, you're good to go. In case you're not familiar with this concept, then do not worry. Check out my ongoing playlist on Python where I'm teaching Python from very basic level to professional level and I'm uploading videos on weekly basis. Now, the question that must be popping onto your mind right now is what are we going to build? So we are going to design a tax calculator which will calculate tax for new regime and old regime based on the recent updates that has been made and give us how much tax which we are going to pay on each of this regime and which regime is best suited for us and where we could save most money. Now honestly, I'm very happy to say that this is going to be the first YouTube video where we are going to create a tax calculator based on the new changes that was announced on 1st Feb. Until now, on the day I'm recording, that is on 9th Feb, no video is out so far where they are teaching how to build a tax calculator. So now without delaying any further, let's get started with the project. Now, the first step to solve any problem is to understand the problem thoroughly. So for those who are aware of tax schemes could directly skip on to the next chapter where we are getting started with the code, or they could sit here and watch the explanation to get a better clarity about the changes in the new tax regime. Now, I will first try to explain the old regime and then move on to new regime with the help of an example so that you guys could have a very clear understanding how tax is getting calculated. Now on your screen you could see a table which is basically the tax slab for old regime. According to old regime, if the person's taxable income is less than 5 lakhs or equal to 5 lakhs, they have to pay a tax of 0%, that is zero tax. But for those whose taxable income is greater than 5 lakhs, their tax will be calculated based on the tax slab you are seeing on your screen. So for old regime, taxable income is equal to the income that the person earns minus a standard deduction of 50,000, which is basically common for new regime and old regime. And this is the fixed standard deduction of 50,000 minus the additional deduction that has been done by the user. So let's understand this with the help of an example. Suppose the person's income is basically 12 lakhs and he has done a deduction of 2 lakhs. So his taxable income is equal to 12 lakhs minus 2 lakhs minus 50,000, that is equal to 9.5 lakhs. Now on the screen you could see the second table where we have shown the breakup of the taxable income and how it is calculated based on the tax slab. So for the first 2.5 lakh that is earned by the user, he is charged a 0% tax on that amount of 2.5 lakhs, that is 0. So for the next 2.5 lakhs, that is from 2.5 to 5 lakhs, the person tax is 5% of 2.5 lakhs, that is approximately 12,500. For the remaining 4 lakhs from his taxable income, a tax of 20% on 4.5 lakhs, that is equal to 90,000, is basically taxed for that particular slab. So the total tax becomes 1 lakh and 2,500. On addition to this, a 4% cess is applicable on the tax amount. So the final tax that the user wants or that we are going to calculate is equal to 1 lakh 2,500 plus 4% on the tax amount, that is 4% of 1 lakh 2,500. That results into 1 lakh 6,600. So this is basically how tax is calculated based on old regime. Now let's take a look onto new tax regime. On your screen you can see another table which is basically the tax slab for new tax regime. The change in new tax regime is if a person's taxable income is less than or equal to 7 lakhs, then no tax will be levied for that income. But if taxable income is greater than 7 lakhs, then the tax will be calculated based on new regime. Now, in case of new regime, the taxable income is quite different from what we have seen in old regime. So the taxable income is basically income minus 50k of standard deduction, and that's all. Note, there is no additional deduction taken into consideration in case of new tax regime. Now let's understand this with the same example and compare in which of the following case the tax is more and tax is less, and why is that the case. So let the income be 12 lakhs here. So the taxable income becomes 11.5 lakhs straight, that is 12 minus 50k of standard deduction. Now on the second table we can see the breakups of tax calculation based on the new slab. So for the first 3 lakhs, tax is 0% of 3 lakhs, that is 0. For the next 3 lakhs, that is from 3 to 6 lakhs, the tax is 5% of 3 lakhs, that is 15,000. For the next 3 lakhs, the tax is 10% of 3 lakhs, that is 30,000. For the remaining 2.5 lakhs from his taxable income, it is 15% of 2.5, that is around 37,500. So summing up all, it results into 82,500. In addition to this, a 4% assess is applied on tax, so the final amount results into 85,800. As you can see, for the same income, there is approximately 20k additional amount you have to pay in case of old regime when compared with the new regime. Now you guys must be thinking, if that's the case, why not to calculate the new regime only and why to do a calculation with old regime? That's the case because for few specific income sources, or for income greater than 20 lakhs, or for specific source, old regime might result in lesser tax when compared to new regime. So that's the reason why we are building this project, so that the people can calculate their tax on different regimes with the different income amounts and save the most out of their income. Now let's take another step towards our project. After understanding the problem statement, I believe the second statement is to plan the solution. We plan the solution by either making a flowchart, planning algorithms, or writing pseudocodes. Here I will explain you the code with the help of a flowchart. Now on your screen you could see the flowchart where our code is divided into two major parts. The first is calculating the tax based on old regime, and the second is calculating tax based on new regime. So we will be having two different classes, one for old regime, one for new regime. And each class will have a set of functions, that is a constructor where we will define the income. Second being various type of functions which will have calculation based on per slabs that we have discussed earlier. Third being calculating how much is the cess percentage, or what is the tax after calculation of cess. Fourth being showing the tax. So this is the 4 steps that we are going to have in each of our class. And lastly, we are going to calculate tax based on the income and the deduction they have provided. We will do the comparison between both, and we will return which is giving us the most benefit, how much benefit or difference are we getting in case of new regime and old regime, and which one is best suited for us. Now that we are done with understanding the project, let's skip on to coding part. First of all, let's look into the folder structure. Create a folder with any name you want. Now inside YouTube, I'm creating a name as tax calculator. The naming convention is on you. Now let's go inside the tax calculator, and first of all we have to install a virtual environment. Now this is a process where you can skip this particular thing. Virtual environment is necessary because it allows us to create a separate package installation, like a different environment for each and every project, so that we don't have to worry about breakage of any installed packages which has been used or which is being used by any other project. So that's why virtual environment is necessary. Now if you are not having virtual environment, you could use this command that is popping onto your screen. I am writing it in my terminal as well. So this is the command using which you could install the virtual environment. Now I already have, so I am not doing it. And this is the command to create a virtual environment. So Python 3 -m venv, and here you have to provide the name of your virtual environment. I will be doing local underscore venv because it's local virtual environment. And there we go. So now you can see there is a local virtual environment that has been installed in here inside the tax calculator. Inside tax calculator, let's create another file called tax.py. Yeah. So this is another file tax.py where we are going to write all of our code. Now let's activate the virtual environment. Source local venv when activate. And there we go. Our local virtual environment is activated. Whenever it is activated, you will see local venv or the name of your virtual environment popping like this in brackets. So now let's get started with the coding part. As we discussed earlier, we are going to have two different classes. So for people who aren't aware of what classes are in object-oriented programming, let me take a quick walkthrough about what classes are. So classes can be said as template from which objects are created. Now this might be confusing, but let's understand this with a very common and oldest example, that is by using cars. Now you must have heard brands like McLaren, Porsche, Nano, Alto, etc. So what do you think all of them are having in common? They are having 4 wheels, they are having steerings, they are having brakes, seat belt, dashboard, etc. So these are common irrespective of what brand we are going to use. So this can be called as template for the car. For making a car, this is a particular template where it is bound to have 4 wheels, steering wheels and all these things. And you can call this steering wheels, engine, 4 wheels, dashboard, seats as methods, because these are the functions that is present inside the template of the car. So this is what classes are. Now let's hop back into our coding. Inside the class we will be having constructor which will be automatically called when we are making an object. In this constructor we will initialize the class variable income and tax, which we are going to use in further video. So let's create a class here, class old regime. Now if I'm explaining either one of those old regime or new regime, the explanation is quite similar for both. So let's make a constructor dev init. Now name for constructor is always dash dash init dash dash, so don't try to change a new name. And here we are passing income because we are going to get the income from user. Now we will do initialize the class variables as income that we are going to use get from user, and tax as 0 because currently there is no tax. Now we will be defining some other methods or class methods which we are going to use in our code. So we are getting started with 4 or 5 different class methods. Now the calculation of tax will be based on slab basis. If you remember from the previous explanation, we were calculating tax based on the slabs that it is falling into. So in case of old regime, there are kind of 4 slabs where it is from 0 to 2.5, 2.5 to 5, 5 to 10 and greater than 10. So we are going to write the function for those. Now the 2.5 I can't write, so I have written 2-5. So yeah, naming convention is again up to you, so you could use anything you want. Now we are going to calculate the tax, so we are going to write self.tax plus equals to income star 0. Now why I have given income star 0 in here? Because for the first 2.5 lakhs the tax calculated will be 0%. So here we are going to return self.tax. Now we are going to write another function for calculating less than 5. Again we are going to pass self comma income in here. We are going to do self.tax plus equals to. Now this is going to be a bit confusing for you, but let me complete the coding and then I will explain you what I'm doing. Okay, so what's happening in here now? If you remember, if your salary is basically 9.5 lakhs in the example, then we have to calculate the tax for first 2.5 lakhs, then the next 2.5 lakhs from 2.5 to 5 lakhs, then the next 4.5 lakhs, that is from 5 to 9.5 lakhs. So for doing that particular scenario, we are going to call the function that is the slab that is one below the level of what we are going to calculate, like calculate less than 5. So the above slab is calculating of less than 2.5. So we need to calculate the tax slab for first 2.5 lakhs and then we are going to move the remaining part. So what will be the remaining part in here? This will be 2.5 lakhs. So income minus 2.5 into 0.05. Now why 0.05? Because it is 5%. So 5 by 100 I have written it as 0.05 and I am returning the tax in here. So this is what we are going to do in all other cases. So let me copy this to save some time. So here it will be another is less than 10, and what we are going to do, we are going to call less than 5, not 2.5 here, and we are going to pass the upper limit, that is 5 lakhs. And here again we have to do income minus 5 lakhs. I did a 50,000 I believe, yeah. And here what is the tax percentage? That is 20%, right? So here we are done with another function that is less than 10 and another one that is greater than 10, right? So we will write greater underscore 10. We are going to pass less than 10 here. We are going to give a salary of 10 lakhs. We are going to do an income minus 10 lakhs. And here we are going to calculate a tax for 30%. So there we go. We are done with 4 functions for calculating tax based on its slabs. So let's calculate. Now other than that, we are having two more functions. One is for calculating the ses value. So we are going to do a define calculate ses in here. We are going to pass self and we are going to return self dot calculate tax. Now there will be another function for calculating tax which I will be writing in a short while. So here we are going to do calculate tax star 1.04. Why 1.04? Because the tax amount, the cess is calculated on whatever tax amount we are getting, and that is above 4%. So it is the tax amount plus 4% of the tax amount. So if you are aware of basic percentage like concept, so we can write the same thing as 1.04, like we are multiplying it by 104 by 100, that is 104% by 100, that results into 1.04. So this is basically basic math, so I think you guys are pretty clear about those. So let me write another one, that is def calculate tax. Here we are passing self because we don't need to pass any parameter. The income that we are getting, that we have initialized in here, we are going to use that particular thing. So what is the first thing? If self dot income is less than or equal to 5 lakhs, then we are going to return a tax of 0, because that's what we discussed, right? For old regime, a tax amount, that if the taxable income is less than 5 lakhs, then we are going to return 0. If it is less than 10 lakhs, that is else if self dot income is less than equals to 10 lakhs, then we are going to return self dot calculate less than 10. And what is the income that we are going to pass? We are going to pass self dot income in here. And the last scenario, that is else case. Else, what is the else case here? If it is greater than 10 lakhs for all the values, so we are going to return self dot calculate greater than 10, and here we are doing self dot income. And guys, that's it. We have successfully completed writing the class and the method for old regime. Now let's do the same thing for new regime. Now I will fast forward this and then I will explain you, because the explanation is same for both, only the tax slabs is going to be different.
One hour later. $2,000 later. 1 eternity later.
And that's basically it. We have calculated CES tax for each and every slab that is present. That is for calculating a tax for less than 3 lakhs, we are getting 0. For calculating tax that is when less than 3 lakh, we are first calculating the tax for 3 lakhs and then calculating the remaining amount with 5% tax, that is income minus 3 lakh into 5%. Then we are calculating for less than 9 lakhs, where we are passing first calculating less than 6 lakhs and then we are calculating the remaining amount. Same goes for 12 lakhs, that we are calculating 9 lakh and then remaining amount. Same for 15 lakhs, where we are calculating first for 12 lakhs and then remaining amount. And lastly, greater than 15 lakhs, where we are calculating for less than 15 and the remaining amount with a tax percentage of 30%. Now the CES value is same for both, where it is 4% on the tax amount, so we have copied the same function. And here also we are calculating the tax based on slabs. Now if you remember, we have already discussed, if your taxable income is less than 7 lakhs, then we are going to return a tax percentage of 0. Else if it is having an income of less than 9 lakhs, then we are going to calculate for 9 lakhs, less than 12 for 12, less than 15 for 15 lakhs, and greater than 15, then we are going to calculate for 15 lakhs. Now we are done with the whole coding process. Yeah, trust me, it is as simple as that, as easy as that. You just have to figure out where to do what. So now we are going to write another function where we will be doing the calculation of tax based on the income we are getting from user. So we are going to write a compare and calculate function. Now again, it is not a class and you can give any name you want to. I am doing a compare and calculate, where I am passing income deduction. Now deduction is what we are going to get from users, so let's do a old underscore tax as 0. Same for new underscore tax, and there are two more values, that is taxable income old, taxable income new. And there we go. Now another thing, if we are going to calculate if income is less than 5 lakhs, then we are going to make old tax as 0 itself. Else we are going to make income is taxable income old equals to income minus deduction minus a standard deduction of 50,000. If you remember, we have already discussed that. Now we are going to create a object for old regime. I am here writing as OR, and what we are doing, we are going to create old regime. And what are we passing here? We are passing only taxable income old in here, right? And for old tax, now we are doing if taxable income old is less than or equals to 5 lakhs, that is after doing this deduction, if it is 5 lakhs, then we are going old tax as 0 only. Else, that is for other cases, we are making old tax as OR dot calculate CES for, and that's all, because internally it is going to call the self.income, so we don't have to pass anything in here. Now it's the same thing for new regime. Let's try to do that. New regime in here, we are making an object for new regime, that is NR equal to new regime, and what were we passing in here? We are passing income minus 50,000. Now this is the taxable income new in here, because if you remember, we have already discussed that new regime only has a standard deduction of 50,000 and that's all. We don't have any additional deduction, so that is what benefit the user is going to get, or a rebate from income in case of new regime. So let's try to do that. If income is less than or equal to 7,50,000. Now you could do it in other way, that is if income minus 50,000 is less than 7 lakh 50,000, but I prefer to do it directly without doing any calculation in here. Now that results into the same thing, but yeah, I did it in this way. We are getting a new tax of 0, else we are getting new taxes NR dot calculate cess, and yeah, that's all. There we go. Now we are going to return old tax and new tax, comma new tax. Now we are doing this particular thing, that is if name is equals to mean, to test whether our code is working fine or not. But when we are going to deploy it in Flask, then this particular piece of code is not really necessary. So let's try to test it. Now if we are going to get income from user, so we are going to get int of input, and here enter your income, and the same thing for deduction. We are going to say ask user to put the deduction. Enter your deduction. Now we are going to do old tax comma new tax, that is we are going to calculate old tax new tax is equals to compare and calculate. What are we passing? We are passing income comma deduction. If you remember from this function, we are passing these two things. And now we are going to print both, but we are going to compare it. So if new tax is less than old tax, then we are going to print choose new tax, and before that we will be and what is the benefit? Print else choose old tax in here, do a subtraction of new minus old tax, and we are going to print what is the value that we are getting, that is print and there we go. That's it, and we have completed our tax calculator. So let's test this out. Python 3 tax.py, enter your income. Let's suppose my income is 12 lakhs. And what is the deduction? Suppose I'm doing a deduction of 1,50,000. So this is what we are getting. The new tax, according to old tax, we are getting a tax of 1,17,000, but according to new tax, we are getting 85,800. So we are supposed to choose new tax here, where we are saving an additional amount of 3 lakhs and 1200, right? Sorry, 31,200. My bad. Yeah. So that's all about this tax calculator. That is, this is the backend code, you can say. Now for writing front-end code, we are going to use Flask. So I will start with the folder structure of Flask in here, and I will explain you how to write a Flask code. Now that we are done with the backend part of code, let's try to write the front end part for the same. We'll be using Flask for this. Now please install Flask if you haven't installed it in your local drive. Let's pip3 install capital F Flask, and this should install it. Now my requirement is already satisfied since it's already there. You could check this by doing pip3 list, and there you go. You should be able to see Flask listed out in here. Now talking about the folder structure, we need a file, that is app.py, which is going to have the code for Flask, and we need another folder that is called templates. Here we are going to write using templates. So what this folder is going to do, it is going to hold the file called index.html, which we are going to render it in our front end. Now let's try to write the code for Flask. So we are going to first of all import the Flask, because this is the basic step. From Flask import Flask, then we are going to import a render template, because we are going to render our HTML file in here. Now the second thing is we are going to make an app, that is Flask and here we are going to provide the name, right? And then we are going to do if underscore name equals to mean, then we are going to do app.run debugger is true, and we are going to give a port of 8000, and let's try to run this and see if something is happening in here. Python 3 app.py. Oops, this command, no URL found, right? So let's try to do one thing. @app.route, we are going to pass the home page. We are going to write def index in here and return hello world, and let's test this whether it's working or not. And there we go, it's working. So in this particular link, that is localhost 127.0.0.1 at port 8000 @ it is going to give us hello world. So this is how routing works in case of Python or in case of Flask. So here we are going to return the template, that is our HTML file, that is we are going to use render template, and here we are going to pass the template in index.html. So if you try to change the name of here, the Python won't recognize because it is searching whatever template you are writing inside the templates folder. So let's try to run something in here. Let's try to do a HTML head title text calculator, okay, and inside body let's try to write something else. So this is just for testing that whether our code is working fine or not, and there we go, tax calculator is getting printed. So this is how we are going to render a template in here. Now we are going to write another file, that is def calculate, and that's all, and we are going to provide a route for this app.route. We are going to give it a /calculate so that it goes to this particular link when calculate button is pressed, and we are going to write methods as post because we are going to get data and we are going to post that data. And yeah, there we go. So the first thing, we are going to take a input one, or we can say income, and it is going to be a request. Okay, I haven't imported request here, so let's do that. So request dot form, what is it going to do? It is going to request that particular field, that is income. Now the same thing for our deduction, and it is going to take deduction, right? Now we are going to take old tax and new tax by calling the function compare and calculate. If you remember from tax, we have written the function that is compare and calculate. We are going to import it here. So how to do that? Import tax, and here we are going to do tax dot compare and calculate. And what are we going to pass? We are going to pass int of income comma int of deduction. Why int of? Because this particular thing is going to be a string. This is a string, this is a string, so we are converting it into an integer. Now we are writing the code to check which of the following is lower. That is the same thing we did, no? If new tax is less than old tax, then we are going to have a variable that is choose, which is going to store new regime, or let's write this as new tax regime, and we are going to write the benefit as old minus new, right? And in the else case, we are going to choose old regime and we are choosing the benefit as new minus old. And that's all, guys. Now we are going to render the template again with this particular value. So we are going to return render template, and which is a template that we are going to render. We are going to render the index.html file. So we are writing index.html, and what are the data that we are going to pass? We are going to pass old tags. Let's write it as ot equal to old underscore tags, and equals to new underscore tags, benefit equals to benefit, and equals to choose. So these are the 4 data that we are passing onto our index.html file. Now let's hop onto index.html file and write the code with respect to the structure we have created in here. That is, we need 2 forms, that is 2 input files. One is for income, one is for deduction, and we need a table, or we need a place where we could print all this data that we are passing, that is old tax, new tax, benefit, and regime. So let's do that now in index.html file. Let's save this first. Yeah, there we go, and here we are. Now, starting with the HTML and CSS part of the code, we have to make some changes so that our Flask model is able to pick up the input fields and able to render dynamic data inside our HTML file. So for that, let's get started with the form element. Here action will be /calculate, the link where it is going. Method will be post. Now we are having a span element, because as I'm not going to explain you the CSS right now, because that doesn't fulfill the purpose of our video. We want to keep it short, so we are just dealing with the Python side, and I will give you the link in the description for the CSS code in my GitHub, so you could copy it from there, and it is very simple to understand. It's not rocket science. So yeah, so I'm using span element in here, and here I am writing inclusive additional income, and here this is going to be an input field. So what is the input field going to have? It is going to have a type that is of text, and it is going to have a name that is going to be income. Now this is the name that we are going to use for our extraction. Now if you remember, in our app.py we were having we were getting the data that is name and deduction. So we are going to use the same name in here, that is here name should be deduction, and let's remove this part. Under your deduction, I guess. Yeah, that's we are good to go. Let's have another input field which is type of submit, and a value calculate. And yeah, that's all for our input field. Now we are going to create a table. Now before that, we want to render the data dynamically, so we are going to use something like this: if OT. Now what is OT in here? If you remember, OT is basically old tax. So now one thing, if you notice, if we are passing old tax, then of course we are getting the new tax, we are getting the choose, and we are getting the benefit variable. So we can just validate either one of these, like OT, NT, anything, and we could choose our data, or we could render our data based on that particular variable. So we are going to create a table. Now we are going to create a row with heading as old tax regime, choose, and last being the benefit. And this is for the TR. We are going to make another row where we are going to do element, that is, now this is a way to dynamically view the data that is present in OT. So using, okay, let me show you that. This is going to be NT, this is going to be regime, and this one is going to be benefit. I think this is it if I'm not wrong about this. Let me just cross check here. Benefit, treatment, and tax. Yeah, cool. So yeah, our total code is done. Now I'll be copy pasting the CSS. So bear with me. And there we go. We have our CSS here. Let's try to run this and test whether it's working fine or not. So let me do a control C and run python app.py. Yeah, here we go. Okay, I think that I missed something. This is why, because OT is coming. Wait. Oh, I have to do a and if as well. Yeah, there we go. So here I am putting the income as 14 lakhs suppose, and here I am giving a deduction of 2 lakhs. If you remember, there is a standard deduction of 50k that's happening other than this 2 lakhs. So if you are doing a calculate, yeah, there we go. We are getting a old regime taxes 1,63,800 and new regime taxes this much, and we are getting a benefit of 39,000. Suppose we are giving a tax of, suppose okay, I have some random number, I tried it out, and let's do 2,35,000 in here. Let's calculate. So here you can see for this particular example, old tax regime is returning us lower value when compared to new tax regime. So that's the reason why we are doing the comparison and we are giving the benefit that user is getting and which tax regime is to choose. Now that we are done with the coding part, let's move on to the deployment procedure. First thing first, we need to upload the code into our GitHub account. So in case you are not having a GitHub account, don't worry. You could register through the link that has been provided in the description. Now the registration process is pretty much self-explanatory, so I don't think you need any kind of help for that. But in case you need some help, please feel free to comment out in the comment section. Now we have written an additional file for deployment procedure, that is build.sh, which will be used by render platform for deployment. Now let's check out that file first. Yeah, there we go. So there are 4 lines of code, that is set -o error exit, means it will exit the code whenever it is encountering some kind of error. pip3 install upgrade pip, which will be upgrading the pip version. pip3 install Flask, which is obviously required for launching the Flask thing. And pip3 install unicorn is required by render to deploy or run the app. Now render is very easy and free to use, and the deployment procedure is kinda automated and it's very simple. So I have chosen render for that, but feel free to use any kind of website which you have already might be using. Now register into render. Now I have done the registration process already, and you could register through any kind of SSO, Google, GitLab, GitHub. I have used GitHub personally. Now once your registration process is complete, you could see something similar in your dashboard. You just have to click on the new web service here. Then in case your account is not connected, you could click here configure account and allow render to all permissions like for GitHub and all, and your account and repositories should be listed like this. So let's choose our, in my case it is tax calculator which we want to deploy, so let's connect that. Now for the name, a unique name for your web service. Now this is the name that is going to be used in our case of deployment or the URL. So we are going to use tax calculator bold coding. You could name it accordingly. Now branch is main branch. In case you are having any other branches like master or anything, you could choose that branch. Now the root directory will be optional because it's not necessary. For me, the environment it detected automatically. So in case it hasn't detected for you, just come here and choose Python 3. Now build command. Since we are not using a requirement.txt file, we will provide build.sh in here. What is the start command? Start command is unicorn app. Start command is basically how our web service starts. So if you remember, we were doing python 3 app.py to start our Flask model. In this case, we can't do that thing. So we are providing unicorn app. Now let me show you why app and app. So here the file name is app.py. So we are specifying that. And what is the name of our app? that is app again. So in case you're using some other kind of name other than app, then you could give app and your fancy name that you have provided. Now instance is kind of free. We don't want to pay. Of course, if you want to pay, you could select any of this Pro Plus, Ultra. Once your deployment procedure starts, you could be able to see some kind of terminal in here where the procedure will continue. Now this is going to take some time, so I'm going to give you another resource from where you could learn many things free. That is, and you can start using that by hitting the subscribe button in here and share it among your friends, because we are going to build such awesome and unique projects in future. Now let me pause the video and I will quickly start again recording whenever our deployment procedure has been done. Finally, the deployment procedure is complete, so we could test that out by clicking on the link that you could see here. Now, once your deployment procedure is successful, you could see build successful deploying. It is going to start the service, and here you could see your website is live here. In case you're getting some kind of error, then again comment out in the YouTube comment section so that I could take a look into it and I could suggest you with some solutions. Now let's take a look on this website. Yeah, there we go. This is the one we built, right? So it's 12 lakhs, and suppose we are doing 1,40,000. Let's do a calculate in here, and there we go. It is calculating the text based on new regime and old regime, and I don't think there will be any change because we didn't do any change in the code. So this is basically what we built and deployed already. So there we go. We have finally successfully completed the video and we have deployed the code. I hope you liked the video so far and got to learn a lot of interesting things and new technologies and how to perform specific tasks. Now please hit the like button and share it amongst your friends so that we are also equally motivated to create more videos. And also share to those professionals who are scratching their heads over some tax deduction and tax calculator, because this is going to be the most helpful video for them. Thank you guys. See you in the next video.